The 2026 World Cup is just around the corner, and in today's video, I'm going to be presenting to you 5 tips that I think cover every type of player on Sorare, whether it's you're a free-to-play player playing set, or if you've been playing for 5, 6, 7 years at this point. If you do enjoy the video, lads, please do leave it a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel. Link below if you've not signed up to Sorare and you are looking to play for this upcoming World Cup, whether that's the free-to-play version or pro. Link below will get you some free market credits. Once you sign up, it helps me out a lot. No pressure, of course. So for tip number 1, don't be afraid to sell into hype. Now, what I mean by that is, these World Cup competitions only come around every couple of years. And of course, it creates, a big demand for certain cards going to the competition, whether that's a pro card that's in season from Sorare 26 or like a long-lasting classic card that you've had for a couple of years. Now, I do get there's sentimental sides of this game. Like I fall into that trap all the time. And when I say trap, I don't mean in a negative context. It just happens, right? Like, we like collecting cards, we like accumulating them, we like sort of finding gems early and sort of waiting on them and seeing them explode in big tournaments. I kind of had that with Enzo Fernandez, like the last World Cup. I had his card a few years prior to that, and yeah, it's a great feeling. And I've still got my Enzo to this day, and he's got, max XP bonus, he's got a 3% collection. It's a tough card to let go of because to accumulate a lot of XP on a card is not easy to do, and it does differentiate you on the leaderboards, right? The more XP your card has over the competition, the better, right? The more points it's going to score, pound for pound with other Enzos. And so yeah, but saying that, I still think there is an element of like you kind of do have to let go sometimes. For example, yesterday I sold. I had 2 Rodrigo de Pauls that I bought like prior to the first time he came over to prior to him joining into Miami, and I managed to sell him yesterday for like just under 24 quid. I paid 18 quid for him. It's not a big profit margin in any way, but it's liquidity, to say the least. And yeah, okay, he's a bit different. He's going to be he's going to be going back to the MLS after the season, after the World Cup, sorry, and you can still use him there. So he's still he's got like a bit of a double whammy. But there's cards like, for example, I've got like an in-season Bernardo Silva for City. I bought him for the Premier League comp. Obviously, Premier League's done this season. I paid, 22 quid for him 24 days ago. And he's selling for more than that 3 days ago. Okay, marginally more. But again, it's still liquidity. Like, if you want to get out of some of these cards that you bought for the season and you think you've done well with them, even if you haven't done well with them, and you're not really up to, like, you don't really care about the pro side of the World Cup sort of mode, just kind of run you through what you've got going on. So if you've got, pro cards, there's basically a couple things you can do with them, right? The one thing you can do is play the Global Cup Classic competition, which is split by scarcity. So it's obviously limited, rare, super rare, and unique. They all have separate competitions. And all you can win is Sorare 26 Essence, which is getting converted, I think, to Sorare 27 Essence if you hold it in like June something. So like, yeah, okay, you can craft before June and not let it turn into Sorare 27 Essence and craft Sorare 26 cards, although there's just not that many left anymore, really, or many good ones at least. But this is SO7, so you need 7 cards to put a team in. I think you can put 4 teams in per scarcity. So yeah, you can do that. Or they haven't launched, like they haven't showed, they have showed us, but we haven't like, I can't put the cards into anywhere on the game, but we have had the screenshots of what the streaks are going to look like for rare and limited. Super rare and unique for in-season for the World Cup are having a leaderboard competition where you can win cash and stuff. Of course, you can win cash here for limited and rare, but it's a streak thing. You have to hit streak 1, 2, 3, and 4 consecutively, and if you do that, you will share a prize pool of 50,000 in limited and 25,000 in rare. And I'll get into all the numbers that you can see on the screen there shortly. Lads, just a quick break in play to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by Meta Football League. I am absolutely loving playing MFL right now. Season 14, my second season, and the Walgorch, my Welsh team, full Welsh squad, is top of the league currently, 9 games played. And I think MFL next week are releasing some major news in regards to the World Cup. So stay tuned for that. There's links below if you want to get involved in the game. I cannot recommend it enough if you like football management games. And then the other thing you can do is play Arena, which is, what most people do with their classic cards. You go into leaderboard, and then you go into I don't know if you can actually go into the... I guess you can, yeah. So you've got the Classic Global Cup, like 200 essence to enter, whatever, right? Like, same as how Arena works now. That's SO5, though, not SO7. And again, you can win essence, and you're only in groups of 10. Anyway, so those are the three things, basically, you can do with World Cup cards, for the World Cup. Or you sell them. And I do think selling them is not a bad idea if you're not really too bothered about playing either the streaks with limited and rare, where you need 4 in-season cards and 1 classic, or the classic competition, which I showed you, or arena. I do think getting out of some cards is not a bad thing to do, especially if like they don't really fit your gallery or your strategy for next season. I know we don't know much about next season right now, but say if you have like a load of Premier League in-season cards, the play at the World Cup, I've got a couple, like, I don't know, like Anton Robinson I'm thinking of, for example. I paid like £4 for him 2 months ago. You can sell him for like £14 he went for 2 days ago. Like, these players are just going up in price, like, understandably, because there's World Cup utility, there's things you can win, hence these things here, but at the same time, like, if you don't really fancy yourself in doing so, like, I wouldn't like tell anyone to not sell into the hype, to be honest, and maybe just play sets. Like, there is an element to that. Anyway, tip number 2 is if you are going to be playing the streaks in limited and rare, I think there is an argument to say that if you really, really want to go for it, I do think the World Cup cards the Sorare have released, which I'll show you now, the international editions, albeit I don't think they're the best, the most fantastically designed cards in the world. Of course, as you can see, they're not allowed to use the badges or the logos of the nations, because they have like a FIFA Pro license. They don't have like the actual license for most of the clubs or teams or nations. They do have like the Canadian license somehow, so like the Canadian badge is on, like, if I go to Jonathan David, maybe if he comes up, yeah, as you can see, like the Canadian badge is on Jonathan David. It's weird, like some nations have it but most don't. So the sort of beauty about these cards, they're in season for the World Cup. Beyond that, they're not, unless they're like MLS cards. So for example, I bought a Son yesterday, not that limited one, this one here, which is the Korea version, but once the World Cup's finished, he will be an in-season LAFC Son. Nothing will change about the card sort of like visually, but he will be in season for the rest of the for the rest of the comp, for the rest of the MLS comp, similarly to like how Messi would be as well. But every other card, obviously J and K League, K League applies as well. J League's kind of done, I think. But the big thing about these cards, I don't know whether it says it on here anywhere, but they basically give you 30% score boost, limited and rare. So like where it says 5%, you're basically getting 35% of the score of that player. Now that's a massive, massive difference. When you're looking at these streak numbers, I've kind of sorted everything by what the average raw score you would need to hit the streaks. So this is what I'll show you a little bit larger here. So these are the raw scores you would need for streak 1, 2, 3, and 4 per position on average, with the 50% captain bonus, to hit the scores without the 30% cards. So as you can see, you need a 60 average from 4 players, and then you need your captain to hit 41 points, basically raw points, before the captain bonus applies to hit the first streak. When you get into the big streaks, you're looking at like 87 average over 4 players in limited, and then you need your captain to hit 56. Now, of course, 59. Now, of course, if your captain hits 100, those averages come way down, don't they? But this is just what you would need across 5 players on average. And again, it's not too easy, which it shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't be easy to share a prize pool of 50,000. So this is from June 11th to 27th, which is obviously 16 days or so for the group stage. And then if you look at the differences between the raw points needed once you add in the 30% bonus, like those 87s, you only need 68 raw points from these players, and that's only across 4 players, and you need your captain to hit just under 50. Like, that is so doable in sort of a hypothetical world. The good thing about these streaks as well is it's going to operate how Sorare set has operated all season, meaning that you can know the lineup before you enter your team. So for example, first game is like Mexico, Czechoslovakia, isn't it? Czech Republic. you're going to know the lineups before you enter your team if you want. Now, the tricky thing about that is similarly how it works in Sorare set. Like, for example, it's the Champions League final today. Of course, in Sorare set, you can wait until the Champions League final lineups come out before putting these lineups in. Like, of course, you still get the percentages, but we can know, in an hour's time, who is starting for Arsenal, who is starting for PSG, and input our lineups there. Now, for example, in a World Cup context, obviously the games aren't on at the same time. So for that first fixture, so it's like, who is it? Mexico versus, like I said, I can't remember right now, but there's 2 games that day, right? Let me just go to the only way I can figure out how to see these fixtures. So first game is Mexico, South Africa, right? At 3 p.m. my time. Now, you're going to know the lineups for that first game. And if you have, say, 3 Mexican players in there, and you've added in 2 South Korean players into that lineup as well, those Mexico players will lock. So, like, those 3 players are playing. You know they're playing because the lineup's out. You don't know if Son and Lee Kang-in are going to start for South Korea, but they're in your lineup, and you can't take them out. So once the first player in your lineup is locked, in my example, I said 3 Mexican players. It could have just been 1. But once the first player has locked, the whole lineup locks. Like, if we find out that Son and Kang, for whatever reason, aren't starting, you cannot remove them for your lineup. They're locked in. So it works exactly like how Sorare set does. And what I was kind of getting at with that is, of course, like, team stacks are going to be quite popular because you're going to know the 5 players who are starting. Now, it's not easy to get, like, I'm not saying it's not easy to get 5 players, but it's not easy to get 5 players that score really well in the same game for the most part, unless the fixture is just an absolute plum fixture, right? Like, these are quite close games. Mexico should beat South Africa on paper, but, who knows? But, like, for example, Brazil-Morocco, that is not an easy game for Brazil at all. Haiti-Scotland, yeah, okay, you'd expect Scotland to win, but again, it's not like you think Scotland are just going to absolutely blow them out of the water. For example, the Germany-Curacao game, that's one where I go, yeah, you could easily get 5 players from that Germany team once you know the lineup and smash them into a lineup and I expect to hit some sort of streak, knowing they're playing Curacao, no disrespect, but Germany should go and sort of steamroll Curacao as far as Sorare scores go. So my whole point with this is, buying the World Cup cards, although, like, you might not want to do it. I get it, like, it's very limited utility. I'm not saying go out and do this, but if you won the best chance to hit these later streaks and get into the shared prize pools, you're gonna basically have such a better chance with the 30% bonuses. Like, as you can see here in rare, it's a little bit easier to hit the rare streaks than it is limited, only marginally, like not by less than a point, without the 30%ers. And then with the 30%ers, you need like a 69 average across 3 players, 51 from your captain, and you will hit, the 500 point streak just because you have those 30% bonus cards. So for example, that Son that I bought is going to have a 30% bonus. I've bought a couple more South Korean. Yeah, I've got Hwan here, and I've got somebody else. Yeah, Seo Young-woo, who was my first sort of World Cup card that I bought. And with these numbers, I didn't even include, as you can see here, it says does not include collection bonus. So I didn't even include the percentages. So for example, the 2% collection bonus that I'd get on Seo Young-woo, I haven't even factored that into these raw scores needed. All I factored in is the 30% World Cup bonus, the 10% card bonus for rare. There is no card bonus for limited or scarcity bonus, and then the 5% in-season bonus, which every in-season card still has. Even like Bernardo Silva, for example, Mo Salah still has his season bonus, so that those all still apply. But yeah, if you are looking to hit or trying to hit these later streaks, I do think now this is of course with having 5, like these numbers are going off having 5 of the 30% bonus cards. Now, it's impossible to get that for Germany because Germany don't have World Cup cards. Not every nation has World Cup cards on sale. The way it kind of works is the cards from Sorare 26 in season that didn't sort of fulfill their whole supply. Like in rare, you can only have 100 cards, limited 1,000, of course. Sorare are minting cards that didn't fulfill their whole supply. As you can see here, like Elijah Just only has just under 500 out of 1,000 limited cards. So they're going to mint now a load of his New Zealand cards. Kalata Carr here, he's got 876 cards, so he's going to have like another 100, maybe 123 or whatever that is. to get to 1,000 once everything sort of locks in for his scarcity. But there's some players like, I think like for example Kieran Tierney for Celtic. I think he only had allocation to have one in-season Scottish card because the rest were already minted. So it says 102 here, but I think that's a little bit false. I actually think Quinny, so Quinny actually has the only Scottish Kieran Tierney in-season World Cup card. So there is, like, I'm not saying every card is available is basically the issue. Like, you can't even get any German cards, I don't think, from what I can gather. Same for like Spain, France, like a load of their players don't have any World Cup cards. So it's impossible to get the 30%. But where, there is countries where you can. Like I said, I've got some South Koreans, I've got some Panama cards because they were quite cheap. Austria has quite a few. As you can see here, I've got Tyler Adams for the USA. Kalata Kar, of course, Croatia have some. And there's some really funky situations, like they've got Nico Paz cards right now, which is so exciting. Like, yeah, okay, I don't think he's going to play every game or anything for Argentina, but this is going to be a classic card next season, and he's a forward. He's going to be one of the best under-23 players next year, I think, as a classic card. I think he'll stay at Como probably, so he'll be playing Champions League or whatever, but this will be an in-season card for however long Argentina are in the World Cup, and then beyond that, it'll be a classic card, but he's still only 20, so it's a really nice under-23 card. But anyway, I think I've kind of made my point there for tip number 2. And yeah, like if you just before I kind of finish that though, if you're just trying to farm like these sort of first 3 streaks, I don't think you really need to get too many of the 30%. Like, it's going to help if you want, if you want to hit them easier with the 30% sort of score boost World Cup cards. But if you've got, existing cards from Sorare 26 and you're more than happy to, play them and not spend anything, I wouldn't blame you at all. Like, I would not blame you at all. I think that makes a ton of sense. And yeah, like, it's quite hard right now because Sorare haven't launched, like, all the sort of the stuff in the background that allows us to like sort of plan our streaks and stuff. But the only way I'm sort of figuring it out right now is going by day. So I'll go down to the classic comp, and this is obviously the teams grouped by day. Now, if you want to kind of speed run it, you'll obviously probably want like a lineup going out each day for the first few, and then like when there's a couple games, like 5 games on in one day, you might want to have mix an Australian with Germany players, maybe even Turkish and German players for the first the first 2 hours of games, and then you've got the Netherlands game maybe, and you've got a full Netherlands team. Like the fun thing is with these streaks, like you don't have to do like there's no game weeks basically, if that makes sense. I know this is a game week here, but this is for classic. But for the streaks, as long as you have the cards, you can roll through the streaks as much as you want, similarly to how Sorare set works. And so, yeah, if you don't want to buy the World Cup cards, I do think just utilizing your in-season cards, if you don't sell them, to sort of farm the lower streaks will be quite fun because, yeah, you're sort of accumulating Sorare 27 essence ready for next year at sort of no cost because you've already bought the Sorare 26 cards and you've had all that in-season utility and you've just got the bonus of the World Cup utility to kind of see through, like I said, unless you wanna sell them. And then for the higher streaks, this would kind of be my sort of tip number 4. Technically, that was tip number 3 was the sort of like the lower streak sort of farming model with your sort of Sorare 26 existing cards. But for tip number 4, and if you're chasing higher streaks, I do think being able to sort of speed run the first few fixtures. Obviously, there's 4 levels. If you can kind of get to level 3 or 4, which 4 being the best prize or the highest, and it resets as well. You can hit it as many times as you want in this sort of 16-day period. Like if you get to 460 once, you can do it again and again and again, as many times as you can, as your gallery can kind of do it basically. And you will get multiple entries into the shared prize pool. So if you've hit the top streak 4 times, you've got 4 times the prize pool share effectively rather than 1, which I think is pretty fun. They kind of stack. And yeah, it's just about trying to utilize the game days perfectly. But like I said at the earlier on, be careful with how the lineup locks before, like, as soon as the first player in that lineup is played, even if the other players play later, that lineup locks. You cannot amend that lineup. So you'd probably argue that full stacks are a good thing in the sense of, like, you're completely eliminating the possibility of getting a DMP or a bench player because all your players are playing in the same team, whether that's a Germany team, a whole Netherlands team, Ecuador, whoever it is. You're obviously eliminating, the DMP sort of, conundrum there. Now, if you're looking to hit those later streaks, the 460s and obviously 500 in rare, I do think it might make more sense. Like, if you've speed ran the first couple of streaks because you just have the cards and the streaks are just obviously lower targets, for that bigger streak, for that, the prize pool share streak, I do think it probably makes a little bit more sense to not force a lineup in one day. Meaning that, like, you could look at a day and go, like, let's just look at this day here. So let's just say streak 1 was hit because you had South Korea lineup. Perfect. Like 5 South Koreans, boom, you hit it. Then the next day on the Friday, you had a whole Canadian team and they managed to beat Bosnia and you hit the second streak, boom. That night then you've got a whole USA team and they managed to beat, they didn't even have to beat them. Whatever the score was, you managed to hit the third streak, 420 in limited, 460 in rare, boom. You're on the fourth streak already by Saturday, okay? And you look at these lineups and go, okay, Switzerland are objectively a decent team. Qatar, whatever. Like, Brazil, Morocco, we said that's kind of a tough game for Brazil. That's not to say they couldn't go and beat them. Morocco might even beat Brazil. Who knows? That's kind of my point. And obviously Scotland, Haiti. Yeah, you'd expect Scotland to maybe keep a clean sheet, but, will they score a couple? Who knows? Like, I look at that and go, you know what? I might not, and let's just say you have a plethora of players from these lineups. I might not go full Brazil for the biggest streak. Like, I don't know if I don't know if the players are going to score enough points for that to happen. Yeah, okay, I've eliminated DMPs because I know the lineup. I've got a full Brazil team, but I don't think maybe the upside might not be there. So it might be worth completely skipping that whole day, potentially. This is hypothetical. Completely skipping it and going, you know what? I'm just going to wait for the Germany game. And I'm going to look at the whole team. I've got a ton of Germany players. I've got Neuer, I've got Kimmich, I've got Wirtz, Musiala, whoever. They're all starting. Let's go try and hit a fourth streak with that whole Germany team. Or you could do something like, you know what? I have Angus Gunn, the start for Scotland. I don't really fancy any defenders, midfielders, or forwards in that day, but I do fancy Scotland to keep a clean sheet. So let me play Angus Gunn. Once Angus Gunn starts, the lineup's locked, and then for the other 4 players, you could obviously you're still risking DMPs here, but you can hand pick some really good matchups. So I look at this and go, yeah, if I have an in-season Kimmich, I probably want to have Kimmich in there. He's almost guaranteed to play as long as there's no injuries. I want Kimmich there as my midfielder. The next day on the Monday, Spain at home to Cape Verde. If you knew Yamal was going to play, I know he's a little bit injured and stuff, like, let's just say hypothetically you knew Yamal was nailed on to play, well then I'm going to have Yamal as my forward. Now, of course, I can't amend these teams because Angus Gunn has already played. So you've got Angus Gunn in goal, you've got Kimmich in midfield, that's going to play the next day. You've got Yamal the day after that. I look at the rest of the fixtures and go, I don't really fancy anything in Belgium, Egypt, blah, 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 New Zealand, Iran, whatever. And then I move over to the Tuesday and you've got like Argentina at home, well not at home, but Argentina against Algeria, and you go, well, I'm probably going to want a Messi to play here for me. So you've got Messi, Yamal, Kimmich, and you only need a defender then. You go, you know what, let me just throw Upamecano in there. Or I wait to the Wednesday and wait for, like, I don't know, Ignacio against Congo, or Konza, or whatever English defender, O'Reilly against Croatia. Again, not a crazy good matchup, but you get what I'm saying. The point is, for those later streaks, depending on the fixture, it might be worth like spreading your lineup across the fixtures across 5 days or so, just so you have like the nut matchup in each position, forward, midfielder, defender, goalkeeper, rather than trying to speed run the higher streaks as well. Because like I said, the fixtures don't look incredible for all these sort of nations. Germany's a standout, obviously, as is Spain. If someone was on the fifth streak and they wanted a full stack Spain or full stack Germany, I wouldn't look at them and go, you're crazy. Like that makes sense. But if you're not going to do that, or if you don't have the ability to do that, I do think, like I said, if you've got Angus Gunn, but then the rest of your players play across the next couple of games, and it's for the big streak, you need decently big scores, as we saw here. especially without the bonuses. Like, I'm waiting for that time where, like, my forward or one of my forwards has got a good matchup coming up in 5 days, and I'll just wait it out. Now that's going to be I think that's going to be the differentiator between, like, the good players during the World Cup for the streaks and the sort of the bad players who rush everything. You do get 3 lives on each level, which is quite interesting. So if you fail to hit 460 the first time, you've got another 2 goes before sort of jumping back down to the first streak. In Sorare it's 4 lives. I'm pretty sure it's 3 lives for the Global Cup, like limited and rare. I'm pretty sure. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And then the final, the 5th and final tip is, if you don't want to do if you don't want to have anything to do with Sorare Pro, whether that's limited and rare streaks, whether that's, you know, the classic World Cup comp or arena, and you just want to sell all your sell all your pro cards, you know, there is going to be an option to play Sorare Set, which is the free-to-play competition that Sorare have kind of released over these last few months. It's been uber successful. Now, of course, the caveat to that is it's not completely free, in the sense that you can buy gems similarly to how you would in, like, a mobile game. Gems allow you to buy better packs, and in those better packs is, of course, better players. I don't think Sorare will change anything as far as, like, the prices go. Like, for the season, we had, like, Bundesliga, La Liga, Prem, League Un for Stellar Knights, which was this last set, which ends in 1 day after the Champions League final. We don't know anything really about the World Cup set, so to speak, but we know it's happening. It'll probably get released next week, I'm pretty sure, and all the details for that. But I think it'll be, it'll work the same. I think gems will be the same price. I think, like, the packs will be in a similar set, in that you have a gold pack for 50 gems, silver 10 pack, and then the bronze pack is how you use your essence. So you can, essence is sort of free to accumulate. You do it by hitting the missions. There's, like, a daily wheel spin, and you open a pack daily, you get a wheel spin, and through that you'll earn essence. And there's a decisive picker which you earn essence from as well if you hit if your player scores or assists or whatever. And then you do get a free pack every day as well. So, like, you don't have to spend money on this. Like, I'm not here saying everyone go and spend a ton of money on set or anything. I spent probably about 100 quid or so on this Stellar set. I didn't make my money back personally. I managed to have a go at the $100 cash, so I got up, like, you can tell here there's 6 streaks here, which is different to obviously the rare and limited, like, pro side of things. I don't know whether they're going to stick with 6 levels this time round for the World Cup. We don't know. Let's just assume they do. And as you can see, you can win gems on the 3rd and 4th streaks, which then allow you to buy the better packs. And like I said, you're more than sort of welcome and able to play for free during the World Cup. Of course, you're going to be sort of handicapped in the sense you're going to have less cards than people that have spent, because they can just, they have more buying power. They're able to pack more players. And it like, don't get me wrong, it's a really fun game mode. Like, as much as I'm really into Sorare Pro and have been for years now, Sorare Set has really sort of ignited my sort of love for the game in a way, to be honest, because you do get to eliminate DMPs to a degree. Like I said, you can know the lineup and then play your players if you won all from that lineup, or you can, wait and play a few players that maybe play later in that day, and whatever. You are sort of playing with fire then to a degree, because you can't amend the lineup, so it does help. But yeah, we're going to basically have all this that we have had for Stellar Knights for the World Cup mode, and yeah, you can sort of play daily and not have to spend a penny. And I think for people who really want to just sell their Sorare 26 cards there are at the World Cup for a bit of a premium, like I said, I showed you some of the players that, like, I've accumulated over the season. Like Robinson, for example, spending 4 quid. I could, like, triple my money on this Robinson right now, and he only has, like, minimum of 3 games. He could obviously have more games if the US sort of qualify and stuff, but or go through the group stage. But it's just crazy. Like, there is a lot of liquidity right now, which I'm not saying it's crazy. Like, I get it. Like, it makes sense why there is liquidity, but it's also a really interesting time if you do want to get out of your Sorare 26 cards and you're happy to play Sorare sets for the tournament, which I would not blame anyone for. I think there's a perfect opportunity to do so, and everyone kind of goes home happy. So that is the video, lads. I know it was a little bit long-winded. I hope I kind of got the 5 points across. And yeah, a couple of, like, point number 2, 3, and 4 kind of all blended into one, but it was, the higher streaks, the farm in the lower streaks were kind of separated, hopefully. I did post this on Twitter as well, on my X account, harrytradesyt. If you want to go have a look at this, the points needed to hit the streaks in rare and limited. I didn't really touch upon super rare and unique too much in this video, but super rare and unique do have their own competition. I didn't really touch upon it, like I said, but it does exist. I'll show you it now. So yeah, this is the unique, super rare and unique, which is combined for in-season, but it's not combined for classic, so you can win cash. Now, of course, if you've got in-season uniques or classic uniques from the season, it does, like, you do get a rewards boost. So the max you can win is, as you can see here, 7,500. But if you just have in-season rare, super rares and one classic, you'd win, 1,500. And there's a decent tail. Like, there's 15 people are going to be winning cash there. And then these are so, like, the in-season super rare and unique do follow a game week, or game weeks. Sorry. Whereas obviously, yeah, these are the game weeks here. And so does the classic rare, classic limited, and stuff. But the streaks, like rare streak, limited streaks, they don't follow a game week. That is just going to, like, live throughout the World Cup, like Sorare does. It doesn't have any guardrails on the game weeks, just to kind of make that a little bit clearer. But yeah, like, just to, like, be transparent or whatever. Like, I'm going to be hopefully playing the super rare, game mode for the World Cup. I do have a couple of goalies, so hopefully they all sort of start for their national teams. Of course, I have Yamal. I know he's, like I said, probably injured for the first game or so, which is a little bit annoying. I've got a couple of players. I bought Brahim Diaz for the for the end of the world, end of the La Liga season. Like, looking ahead to play him into the in for the Morocco side. I bought a Cybiza. You can see I've got them up for sale. I don't know whether I'm actually going to try and sell them. I did buy the New Zealand keeper, but he might not start. There's definitely risk there. I've got Freeze, as you can see. I've got some players. I'm not going in it like, oh my god, I've got the best team ever type of thing, but I'll have a bit of fun with it. But I am going to be playing the rare streaks as well. As you can see, I've bought a couple of World Cup cards ready for the tournament. I weren't really coming into the season with I weren't really coming into the World Cup with that many in-season cards from this past year. As you can see, I've got a couple here, Robinson and Tanakas and stuff, but I really don't have that many because I basically sold a lot of my in-season rares before the end of the season, regrettably maybe now. Like, I had a Benfica collection, I had Sporting and whoever else, right? Like, I've definitely sort of left some cards on the table, but I do have a lot of classic cards going into, for rare specifically for the World Cup. So again, I might sell off a couple of these. It's hard because I've got collections in a lot of them, and there's sentimental value there. And yeah, we'll see kind of how it sort of all shakes out. Any questions, let me know in the comment section. I appreciate you all, lads. Hope you enjoy the World Cup, and I'm sure we'll get some news next week on, like, the actual ins and outs of the new set mode. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a lot more things on the UI that we can sort of tinker with our teams and players and matchups and everything. So yeah, appreciate you all, lads. I'll see you in the next one.